He then decides to do a limited release of 100 gold boards. They actually sell out in under a minute, and they crash the Berrics website. What's up, guys? My name is Levi, and this is Shred Shop, connecting you to skateboarding. And guess what? We've heard your comments, and today we're doing 14 things you didn't know about primitive skateboarding. In this one, we're going to talk about P-Rod, the start, the team, collabs, and so much more. P-Rod, Paul Rodriguez, P-Rod. The year is 1984, and out comes P-Rod. Our big boy P-Rod gets born to the super famous comedian Paul Rodriguez. Yes, his dad's name is also Paul Rodriguez. You might know P-Rod's dad from the movies such as Bloodwork, The World's Fastest Indian, or Rat Race. Early on, P-Rod is picked up by a bunch of local companies. From there, Kareem Campbell spots this guy, scoops him up, throws him on City Stars, and makes it huge. He makes appearances in a bunch of the City Stars videos and has a standout part in the Transworld In Bloom video. He even has an ad for City Stars that says him and Mikey Taylor are now pro. But right after the ad comes out, before the boards are even released, P-Rod decides to leave City Stars. Not long after, Eric Koston approaches him and puts him on Girl Skateboards. He obviously says yes, because Eric Koston is someone he looked up to and idolized while growing up. P-Rod actually had his first pro model board on Girl, and he had a standout part in Girl Yeah Right. If you haven't seen that video, it's insane. Go watch it. He's also riding for S with Eric Koston at this time, and he's working on a pro model shoe. He ends up quitting S to ride for Nike SB, but it's interesting to note that his pro model shoe on S ended up becoming the Koston 5. In 2005, P-Rod gets a call. The call's from Danny Way. Danny Way says, listen, we're going to relaunch Plan B. We're going to bring it back from the dead, but the only way we're going to do it is if we have the dream team that we've thought and dreamed of. And guess what? P-Rod's on that team. If you don't come on, we're not starting it. When Plan B comes back from the dead, P-Rod is on that first original team. And everyone on that original team has a small amount of ownership in the brand. That includes Danny Way, Colin McKay, Paul Rodriguez, PJ Ladd, Ryan Gallant, and Pat Duffy. In 2010, P-Rod puts out a solo part called Me, Myself, and I. This was right near the beginning of when skateboard videos were moving to online, as well as it was one of the very first skateboard parts that was being sold on iTunes. And so it was a catalyst for a new way to make a skateboard video for people to watch. As well, he has 4 X Games medals. He's won multiple street leagues, battle at the Berrics, as well as pretty much every skateboard contest along the way. P-Rod has had a long-standing relationship with Nike SB, so much so that he's actually had 10 pro model shoes with them, which only 3 other professional athletes across all sports have done with Nike. These 3 pros are all within basketball. It's Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant. That's pretty crazy to be on that level with those guys. Primitive sneakers. It's interesting to note that Primitive actually started out as a little sneaker boutique in Encino, California. Over the years, they did a few Nike SB collabs, which obviously blew the shop up into major fame. It's crazy to think that a shop that had hype sneakers, nice trendy skateboard style, and all collabs with Nike and all that kind of stuff wouldn't just kill it. But it came out in 2008. And as much as that doesn't seem that long ago, in 2008, that culture wasn't big enough to support that kind of shop. And so over the years, it ended up closing. If that shop existed now, I bet you it would crush it. Gold boards. P-Rod is at the height of his career. He's touring around doing street league contests, and he's riding for Plan B at the time. He heads out to a stop in Germany for his street league tour, and he decides that all the boards that he brought, he's going to spray paint. He goes out and he buys black, white, and gold spray paint. After trying to spray all these boards, he realizes that the only paint that won't drip and be really streaky is the gold, so that's what he goes with. It's crazy because Plan B didn't find out that he was going to part ways with them until they saw him at Street League on TV riding the gold boards. P-Rod said in interviews that he feels bad for the ways that it ended with Plan B because he still has a lot of love for Plan B, but at the time he was just looking for a change. After this Germany stop and winning another Street League, he has a ton of people hitting him up, how can I buy these gold boards? He then decides to do a limited release of 100 gold boards and he sells them through the Berrics. They actually sell out in under a minute and they crash the Berrics website. The program oversold boards, so they actually ended up selling 150, so they needed to find a way to make 50 extra gold boards because they were pre-sold. The start. After seeing the success from selling these gold boards, Paul Rodriguez and friends decided to start Primitive Skateboards. They started teasing these boards and letting out a little bit of word that Primitive might be a thing, and on April 10th, 2014, Primitive Skateboards began. Obviously, they get the name from the sneaker store that P-Rod partly owns, which was still around at that time, and then they drop a video to showcase the 3 main team riders that are on at the time. It launches as P-Rod as their only pro, and Nick Tucker and Carlos Ribeiro as their only AMs. So when they launched the Primitive website, they announced that they were going to release 500 gold boards that were going to be signed and numbered by P-Rod himself, and they were going to launch at midnight. At midnight, when they did their launch, they sold 500 boards in under 2 minutes, and the website oversold again, so they had to reimburse some of the people. As well, it's crazy because P-Rod actually doesn't even have a board from that run of those original boards himself. Heath Brinkley. Heath Brinkley has worked in the skateboard industry for a bunch of decades. As well, he was one of the original people that started Logic Skateboard Video Magazine. For a while, he was the filmer for City Stars, the team manager for DC, and as well for Etnies. He is a personal friend of P-Rod's. And so P-Rod approached him and said, hey, you should leave Etnies and come and work for me. At that time, it's crazy because P-Rod didn't have a job title or not even really a job for him. He just wanted to work with his friend. Go get me a latte. So he starts being kind of a manager role in P-Rod's life and then comes on as a business partner in Primitive Skateboards and now is the president of Primitive Skateboards and he oversees all the day-to-day operations. Shane O'Neal. Shane O'Neal announces that he's leaving his longtime board sponsor of Skate Mental and he's thinking about doing his own brand. He grew up looking up to P-Rod and then they both rode for Nike for a really long time, becoming close friends. He says that Paul introduced him to many of the people that he knows in the industry. Shane gets an offer from P-Rod to ride for the company, but with that comes a little bit of ownership and stake in the company itself. He also gets to bring over Diego Nahara, which is a guy that he wanted to ride for the brand as well. So he brought him as well as a couple of his filmer photographer friends so they'd be employed by Primitive. In 2015, Shane O'Neal is announced to the Primitive team with an entry video. The team. The Primitive team might just be the most stacked team in skateboarding. After the original team that we said, P-Rod, Nick Tucker, Carlos Ribeiro, they kept adding more and more heavy hitters like Trent McClung, Robert Neal, Devine Calloway, Shane O'Neal, Brian Peacock, Marek Zaprazny, Franki Villani, Giovanni Vianna, and Trey Williams. They also added Canadian legends Wade Desarmo and Spencer Hamilton, and also European royalty Bastien Salabanzi, JB Gillet. More recently, they kept stacking the team, adding Miles Silvas and Tiago Lemos. Who do you think would fit the Primitive team? Who should Paul call up and add to the team next? Let us know in the comments below. P-Rod Inc. Not only has P-Rod been a crazy good skateboarder, he's also been an astute businessman. We've seen people launch board companies and they've come and gone, but he has taken Primitive and literally launched it into something so huge, and that's thanks to his business savvy. His agent is named Cersei Wallace, and she is not only an amazing agent, she's also an agent for a ton of huge name pros. It's crazy because she's actually an ex-pro snowboarder too. She's managed people like P-Rod, Travis Rice, Tora Bright, Jagger Eaton, Eric Koston, and much more. She has gotten him some crazy blockbuster deals like Target sponsorship, AT&T sponsorship, a massive contract with Mountain Dew, and I'm sure she helped him get that McRib commercial. He's also invested in some really profitable brands over the years. In 2013, Josh Landon, P-Rod, and a bunch of friends launched St. Archer's Microbrewery in San Diego, California. It was an interesting time and endeavor because it was one of the first times that a bunch of action sports people came together to start a big brand that was completely outside of the skateboard industry. It was a crazy success because they ended up selling the company after just a few years to Molson Coors, which is one of two major beer brands in the United States. They said that it sold for roughly around $500 million. April Skateboards. In June 2018, Shane O'Neill announces on Instagram that he's leaving Primitive to start his own skateboard brand. When Shane left, he actually gave back his part ownership in the brand back to P-Rod. Neither of them have commented on what happened, but it's kind of clear that there was something that happened between Shane and P-Rod to make him leave. So he left to start his own board brand. Almost a year later, he announces that he's starting his own board brand called April Skateboards. There's a lot of rumors that the brand is named after his daughter, who is also named April, but he said that isn't true. The name was thought up by one of his old friends, Chris Middlebrook, who is also his filmer at Nike. He launches the brand with the team Yuto Horigomi, Yosef Ratliff, Noah Naev, Nathan Jackson, Ish Cepeda, and Johnny Tang. He also adds Ronnie Kessner to the squad. They released an original introduction to the brand video, and then in 2020, they put out a full-length video called Replay. Franki Villani. After parting ways from Zero in September, Franki Villani was added to the Primitive team in 2017. Ever since he's been added, he's been on an absolute tear, releasing a video part every single year, including this year. Videos. Primitive obviously has a stacked team, so they put out some of the best and the most footage over the last decade. They put out videos like Never, Rome, Fourth Quarter, and Encore. They've also let out a bunch of solo videos over the years, as well as tour videos in Canada, Texas, Europe, and more. Collabs. Over the last few years, Primitive has been known for their crazy or wacky collabs. A few of those include Kikkoman Soy Sauce, New Balance, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Nike SB, Sriracha Sauce, Naruto, Rick and Morty, and a Tupac collection, followed by a Biggie collection not that long after. Primitive Canada. We paid a lot more attention to Primitive in Canada when they put on two major skateboarding icons from Canada, Spencer Hamilton and Wade Desarmo. Both being Canadian legends, they've been skating and filming a ton and putting out footage for over 2 decades now. It's funny because when Wade Desarmo left DGK, he had to change his Instagram name from DGK Wade to Wade Desarmo on Instagram. Modern Primitive. It says a lot about Primitive and P-Rod, the fact that they have staying power. They've been running for so long with such a strong team and so much influence. We see board brands pop up by major pros, and they pop up and fall and pop up and fall, and Primitive had stayed the course. The modern Primitive team is still stacked. Miles Silvas, Carlos Ribeiro, Wade Desarmo, Spencer Hamilton, Franki Villani, Trent McClung, Robert Neal, Marek Zaprazny, JB Gillet, Brian Peacock, and their new ripper, Giovanni Vianna. As well, they sponsor Trey Williams. I'm sure they're going to be dropping tons of amazing skateboard footage always over the years. Make sure you guys are checking what they're putting out. As well, it's crazy because they tour more than most any brands out there. How many of you guys want to see Primitive come to your town? Comment below and let us know. We'll call P-Rod up for a personal favor for him to come the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and you guys can get it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Levi. This is Shred Shop, connecting you to skateboarding. And as always, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear where people are watching from. And tell us what video we should do next. You guys are awesome. Support your local skate shop. Stay out of the malls. Go to your local skate shop. If they have a website and you need to stay home because of COVID or other reasons, shop on your local skate shop's website. And if you don't have one, you can of course come to us. But stay tuned for Comment of the Week. Oh! Comment of the Week. Spicy one for you and your butt. What's up, big booty boys? This one is from Ubop Shabam 81. They commented on our Girl Skateboard video and they said Koston is the Seinfeld of skateboarding. I gotta ask ya, Ubop Shabam 81, who is Elaine, who is George Costanza, and who is Kramer? Let us flipping know, because we're gonna create a skateboard Seinfeld and you're gonna be in it. You could host the whole dang thing. Bye!